Good evening. Welcome to the regular Planning Commission meeting, Grand Blanc Township, December 5th, 2024. May look like we're getting started early, but we're not. The clocks are running a little bit slow. So it is 7 o'clock. We're going to get started. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members present this evening, we have Mr. Andre, Ms. Coulter, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Gellings, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Bush, our Planning and Zoning Administrator, Mr. Jeremy Smith, and our Planning Consultant, I'm sorry. My brain is not working great today. Jill Bain. Took me a while, but I got it. All right. This evening, the agenda, next item on our agenda is an opportunity for public comments. This is for anything that we are not having a public hearing this evening. We are having a public hearing for 3 items this evening. There's a special land use public hearing under item 7A. There's a public hearing regarding Deer Run Farms, that'll be item 7B. And then there's zoning case 676, which will be for a rezoning request, that is item 7C. So if you're here for one of those 3, there'll be an opportunity to speak. But if you're here and don't want to speak for one of those items, but want to address the Planning Commission on something else, now would be the time. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Move on to approval of the minutes. Did we get any comments?
Mr. Yancho, before he was relieved of his duties, had no comments for the Planning and Zoning Department for the minutes, no changes.
For those of you that don't know, we had 2 representatives once Mr. Yancho was appointed to the board, or not appointed, elected to the board.
Right.
And so he won't be on the Planning Commission anymore. We'll need to end up electing a new secretary.
Yes, and we'll also need an alternate for the Site Plan Review Committee.
Okay. When do we need to do
We'll,
that?
when we get down to the approval of the agenda, we'll make that first thing on the agenda, please.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Motion by Mr. Hoffman to accept the minutes of November 14th, 2024 as presented.
I'll second.
There's support by Mr. Andre. Any other discussion? If not, a vote is in order. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 6-0, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a new item under new business. Please add that we need to add a new secretary, appoint a new secretary, and appoint a new member to the Site Plan Review Committee.
So that's item 9.
We'll do that under 7, we'll make that the new 7A.
Okay, so now you confuse me. So 7A becomes 7B.
Correct, everything moves down, please.
All right, we'll slide down one.
Yes.
Okay. Any other changes to this evening's agenda?
None.
Anyone else? Motion? Motion by someone to accept.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Mr. Bush to approve the agenda as amended, support by Mr. Hoffman. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 6-0. Correspondence, we do have one at our place, but that will be reviewed once we get to that item that's on the agenda. That was,
You actually have two correspondence, one for the rezoning and one for the open space.
and any other correspondence?
None.
Old business, I don't believe we have any. So new business, I'll turn it over to you.
So, Mr. Yancho was elected as our new township treasurer. He was our planning commission secretary. He was also the alternate for the site plan review committee. So today, we need to appoint a new secretary and a new alternate for the site plan review committee.
Was there anyone that would like to volunteer to be secretary? I guess we'll start there before we do forced labor, yeah.
I have, in my previous stint on the planning commission, I served as the secretary. I'll be more than willing to step up to that if it's fine.
Anybody else have a problem with that?
Absolutely not.
Thank you very much.
Are you for both positions or just secretary?
The other one's an alternate, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Works for me.
Hey, that was easy.
We like easy.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
Get to vote on that?
Probably should, right? Yeah. A vote, please.
All right, vote is in order, I guess, to confirm that Mr. Hoffman will be both our alternate for site plan review and our secretary. I guess all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. I don't know if that was 5 or 6-0. Thank you for stepping up, Mr. Hoffman. All right, so that takes us to what was 7A, which probably won't renumber just to make it easy for my special land use 24-0002. This is for U-Haul outdoor sales. Is there someone here or no? Gonna step up to the mic and just kind of give us an overview of what this is all about.
Good evening. So I am the owner of Blue Line Detailing. We are a new business at
Your name is?
Ryan Griggs.
Okay.
We're a new business at 4017 Baldwin Road, right there at the corner of Holly and Baldwin Road. We worked with the planning commission, went through everything they asked us to do, spoke with the owner. We were allotted 2 spaces for a couple of the smaller U-Haul trucks, nothing large. Just the 1-bedroom, 1 studio apartment, 10-foot box trucks, basically. We are allotted those spaces. They are in a special area. I believe it's the southwest corner of the parking lot. And those trucks will be parked there, that's it. Even right now, actually with snow removal, they've even left those spaces open. So I'm just hoping for approval that we can continue this and add it to our portfolio of the things that we offer. But if there's anything the commission or the board needs from me, I'm happy to do so.
Mr. Smith, you did a review.
Yes, sir. You like me to go over it really quick, or?
Yeah.
So the parcel, zone light industrial, that corner is light industrial at 4017 Baldwin Road. The leasing of equipment and trucks is regulated as a special land use. Leasing of trucks and equipment doesn't have any specific special land use requirements in this instance. But the special land use must be consistent with the goals, objectives, and future land use map described in the master plan, which it meets. Special land use will be consistent with the stated intent of the zoning district, which it meets as well. The special land use will be designed, constructed, and operated and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. Item is met as well. And the special land use can be served adequately by public facilities and services such as sufficient roadway capacity, police, and fire protection. This item is met as well. and the Planning and Zoning Department would support a recommendation for approval based on the following reasons. Number one, the special land use is compatible with the surrounding land uses. And number two, the requested special land use standards for leasing of equipment and trucks have been met.
Any questions, comments from planning commission members?
A couple questions, if you don't mind.
Mr. Andre?
How many employees do you have?
Just me.
Okay.
So I don't use any of the parking spaces actually for anyone, including myself. My wife and I share a vehicle, so including the parking spaces, I don't even actually use one. And we have a loading zone that is specially designated for pickup and delivery and pictures. So that's technically not even a parking space I'm using even for client vehicles. So the 6 spaces I'm allotted, 2 of which are actually handicapped, I'm still available with 2 handicap and 2 standard parking spaces.
It's not going to interfere with any operations.
No, and the fact that we picked that part of the corner of the lot wasn't partially Mr. Smith's recommendation, but it was actually my landlord's. That was kind of his stipulation. That was the only place we could put them, and that's fine for now.
With, you had mentioned the landlord, what authorization did you receive from?
We have a written letter of intent that does specify only that certain size truck. It does specify those 2 spaces and where they're located, and it is signed by the landlord.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the planning commission? Mr. Bush?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the only question I have is to reiterate on Mr. Andre's comment is 2 parking spaces means 2 trucks.
It'll be 2 trucks only.
That's,
And I've worked that out with U-Haul themselves.
Okay.
Even if a larger truck is dropped off, immediately a call will be made, that truck will be picked up. There are 2 locations within the vicinity of about 2.5 miles. One near freaking Unbelievable Burgers down the road, another little location in Holly. The trucks can be picked up or transported there. I'm not going to be storing anything larger than a 10-foot box truck.
2 of them.
2 of them.
Okay.
At any given time, and there'll be no trailers. So there won't be car dollies, other trailers, anything like that. It's literally just these 2 trucks.
Thank you.
All right, I think we'll go to this. This is a special land use, so we have to get public input. So you can have a seat, and we'll see if there's anyone that would like to speak regarding the addition of 2 U-Haul trucks for lease on this site. Anyone here like to address that? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public comment. Bring that back up to the planning commission. Anything else from anyone up here?
I just want to add that, we have 3 code enforcement officers that are in the town all day, every day, except for Fridays. And they're always in that end of town. There's always somebody driving by. If something does get out of hand, it won't get out of hand for very long. So, not that the applicant, we have any issues with the applicant, but in case there is, we've got eyes on things.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval of the special land use 24-0002.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, support by Mr. Hoffman. I guess the vote is in order. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes 6-0. Yes, we will move on to what is called 7B on our agenda now. This is residential open space, Deer Run Farms. The applicant like to address the planning commission with what your overall plan is?
Good evening, everybody. For those who, the audience are here, may not know me, my name's Chuck Sakrinas. I own S7 Holdings. I'm the one that has the property out on Deer Run, part of the 148 acres. I have the parcel to the east of the large 148 acres. So we had intentions originally of buying this piece, splitting off some lots. My son was going to build there. We were going to put our house there, but due to some other circumstances, we decided to hold off and go in a different route. So instead of having it sit there, I have an opportunity to have a home builder that would like to finally develop the rest of Deer Run after 20 years. My piece, just so everybody here knows, is a need-not-be-built parcel. I do not fall under the Deer Run Farms master deed, none of that. The other 74 acres falls under that. That's the reason why I bought this 74 acres, so I'm not limited to having to follow certain rules. But it's not the rules that are the problem. The only thing I see, and I put a letter together, and if you guys don't mind giving me 2 minutes, I'll read it so the people in the audience can hear what I had to say to you guys. I'm formally requesting that the ROS overlay of the zoning for the 74 acres that we own off Desire, Eunice, and Jerry Drive in Grand Lake Township be opened up to make a modification to this agreement to allow for front-load garages without any stipulation as to the location of the garage, overhead door, and the front of the garage in relation to the front of the home. We ask that our proposed development and the changing times and home ownership in today's market, that this be removed. The 74 acres that we own, again, which is a need-not-be-built parcel, along with the 74 acres to the west owned by Rudy Fahn out of Switzerland. He currently has 92 lots that are laid out there, tax IDs. Those are 92 lots that must be built that way. Without any progress in the last 12 years that I know of, under this ROS overlay agreement, it was approved to have side-load garages or front-load garages as long as the setback to the front load was 5 feet beyond the front of the house. In exchange for that agreement of those setbacks, the Planning Commission, or Grand Lake Township, approved to go from 120-foot wide lots down to 100-foot wide lots, thus allowing for more open space. As a developer, I agree with the open space concept, with the concession of smaller front lot widths, but I do not see the reasoning as to garage entries when this should all be about overlay of open space, creating more open space for the residents. As a longtime developer and investor in this community, we've provided Grand Lake Township with some great developments and buildings and proposing another great product for Grand Lake. I'm sure people in the audience know what I've done, where I've done them. Grand Wailea is one big one that we started way back in 1998. I did stuff on Hill Road. I had Bella Vita Senior Living. So you guys know that I'm not just throwing junk into the township. We're pretty respectable, and we believe in this community. We're proposing to develop this 74 acres for new housing for, don't want to use the word affordable, because then that sounds like we're down into the $100,000 and $200,000 range. I can tell you from what I've heard from this home builder, their houses are starting in the 300s. Builders, developers, and the developments that they're proposing, we still try to accommodate everyone, but also need to control the cost of a new home. To do this, in today's market, side-load garages add more cost to the home and does not maintain open space. This is because the driveways end up larger, more concrete for your turnarounds to back your vehicle into, and the driveways end up being closer to the neighboring residents, which then scoots the house over one way or the other, and you have wider concrete. Today's buyers are looking for simplicity along with ease and comfort when coming or leaving their home daily. With our proposed development and design, we're going above and beyond what's required for open space in this ROS zoning. In comparison, the neighboring 74 acres to the west, which is already laid out for 92 lots, has approximately 10 acres of open space. Our development, which could be designed for much more than 115 lots, will only have 80 lots. And it has approximately 27 acres of open space. Over 30% of my property is going to be left as open space. I've even created open space that backs of lots to backs of lots. So you don't, some of them do not have the lots right on top of each other. We're excited to create a development where the residents have more open space, bigger yards, less concrete to their neighbors, still have the amenities of public streets, sewer, water, curbs, gutters, cul-de-sacs, daylight lots, walkout lots, sidewalks, street lights, and tree-lined streets. So if I can just add to that, our home builder knows that we will put in the trees on the streets that's required by the township. Where there's not a lot, when the home gets built, they're required to put in the trees on those lots. All of our homes in here will be landscaped. I know there's some, if you drive through Deer Run, there's no trees, there's no landscaping. That's not me. When I developed Grand Wailea and I started that, and the other 10 or so developments I've done, I've always put in sidewalks and street trees. I was the first one way back when, after 30 years, to put sidewalks in Grand Blanc Township. And that was Grand Wailea. I know there's been things out there that I'm developing this thing into assisted living, or people think I'm going to develop it into small lots and that. I am abiding 100% by what you guys have in your ordinance for the lot sizes, the setbacks. I've even created in the cul-de-sacs farther setbacks, pushing the houses back a little farther so they're not right up close to the streets. We are not asking for anything different. We're not going to ask for one variance to come back and say, look, we want to make our house smaller than what your ordinance says. We are 100% abiding by what you're asking for. The only thing I'm asking for is this ROS overlay agreement that you just allow us to put the garage, if it's front loading, anywhere along that front line. I'm not saying I'm going to push it out 10, 15 feet in the front, but if you even put them out 10 feet or 8 feet, 6 feet in the front, a lot of people have these lofts or second, third bedrooms up above the garages. So they're in every development we've done. They're in every development you probably drive through. You'll see the garages pushed forward, windows in the garage. I'm not saying there won't be side-load garages. I just don't think that this ROS overlay should have anything to do with the garage setup as much as it should have to do with the open space. Like I said, I'm giving you 30+% open space. So we're creating that bigger space. I guess I really don't know what else to say. You guys, if you remember what we developed, you know what I do, and you're pretty good.
I think I'd like to get one thing clarified, the need not be built versus must need to be built,
Yep,
and which parcels we're talking about on this map.
if you don't mind.
All the blue is my 74 acres. All these green lots is the other 74 acres that already has tax ID numbers on it. This off Patricia and Whitetail is all must be built. That's why you guys already have all the tax IDs. This is need not be built. It's right in the master deed that this does not ever have to be built. I could put one house here, I could put two, I could put three, or I could put 115. We're just putting, we want to put 80.
Okay. Planning Commissioners all clear on that? Then, Mr. Smith, is that in line with what you understand? Is there any comments on that part?
No, Mr. Sekrenis has covered that. My review reflects basically and reiterates what he's saying. The Planning and Zoning Department would recommend for approval based on the following reasons. The requested ROS modification meets the spirit and intent of the ordinance, and the ROS modification will not negatively impact the surrounding area, as surrounding subdivisions in the area do not require these restrictions as part of their site plan approval.
When was this, my memory sometimes isn't the best, when was this reviewed? Have we seen elevations?
We're not at that point
Seen
yet.
a plan? We're not there, okay. I
Right.
didn't remember seeing anything, but
No, we're kind of treating this like a special land use. We're going to this is going to tie into the site plan that will need to be approved at a later date. No construction will be allowed until that is approved.
I was gracious enough to I told Jeremy I'd bring or send him the layout of our conceptual layout.
he's seen it.
Yep, so
You've got a copy.
everything abides by your ordinance.
This page here. You believe there was extra copies. There's, some of the audience members should have it as well.
It's in the packet of the three,
Oh, it's under the,
bottom of the three.
Okay. We have not seen, typically we'll see site elevations for the type of models that you're building.
Yes, and that'll all be part of site plan approval. This is just conceptual layout.
Okay.
This is not anything to hold him to. This is just conceptual, to give a representation of what it will probably look like.
So, just to clarify, you mentioned a number that could be built on here, potentially. And
1.7 per acre. And we're down around 1.1 per acre. 1.2 maybe.
typically, and then I guess that'll happen at site plan, we'll have you do a layout to show what the max is you can get on there with existing site conditions and that kind of thing.
The original preliminary from when Deer Run was originally done, from my understanding, was over 94 lots. I cut it back to 80.
Mr. Andre?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to recuse myself from this, and I'll step down from the podium.
The reason is?
Reason is I have a relationship with the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we still have 5 planning commission members here out of a total of 9, so we do have a quorum. And we're reviewing the rules.
Yep, we just need the sitting members, we just need a quorum to hold the decision, and we just need majority vote for
Members
Decision.
present,
membership. Yep.
just to clarify that. So we don't need
We don't need all,
unanimous of who's here.
Correct.
We need
3.
correct.
3 out of the 5 to, okay, in order to take action. All right, anyone else from the planning commission?
Before you go to public comment, in your packet, you do have a letter from a Mr. Dowd.
Yes, I read that.
6331 Patricia Drive. I believe Mr. Dowd's in the audience tonight. He's not in favor of this development. I'll let you read that.
Want to sum?
It was in your packet, so you have,
Move stuff around here, I've got it all buried.
yes.
Just want to summarize what the,
There's a lot to take in this. It's a very well-written
said
letter.
Mr. Dowd is here.
Mr. Dowd is here, but we can have him speak for his allotted 3 minutes at public hearing if you'd like, and he could summarize it.
Going to summarize, I have my legal argument as opposed to the actual information that I set out
Okay.
in the rather lengthy letter.
So you're not for it, is that correct? You're against?
I'm opposed to the
Okay.
modification of the ordinance
Okay.
to the applicant. But I set out a great deal of factual information in my letter pertaining to the development of the subject.
Very well done.
Oh, here it is.
And I agree with Mr. Smith, it's hard to summarize my 3-page letter. It's rather lengthy.
Okay, safe to say that you are opposed and you will have an opportunity to speak here.
I would like to.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Mr. Hoffman?
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
Just want to remind everybody has 3 minutes to state their case in opposition or for, in recommending approval.
And it looks like our secretary is getting ready to keep track of 3 minutes.
Mr. Secretary, I can handle the 3 minutes if you want to take in all of the information.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, so we will open up the public hearing for this. What we'll do is we'll start at the back. How's that? On my left in the back. Give us your name at least.
My name is Peter Dowd. I reside at 6331 Patricia Drive in the Deer Run subdivision, and I've resided there for 18 years. I oppose the applicant's request for modification of the application of the zoning ordinance to the applicant's property. I've already made written comments, which you received in the information packet on this hearing. I hope you have read or will read those comments before you make a decision, as I will not repeat them here. I believe the legal issues before you are, can or should the Township Planning Commission modify at the applicant's request the requirements of Section 3.1.20.f of the zoning ordinance concerning the density bonus of 20%. My reading of this section of the zoning ordinance indicates that all 9 factors are required and that no factor can be waived to grant the density bonus. If you could do so, the ordinance would have been written in a manner which would provide for flexibility, and the ordinance clearly does not provide that flexibility in this case. Now, in the alternate, if the members of this commission do believe they have the power to modify the factors in awarding the density bonus, then you must do so using the standard of regulatory flexibility described at Section 3.1.20.e. The regulatory standard reads, "Any regulatory modification shall be approved through a finding by the Planning Commission that the deviation shall result in a higher quality of development than would be possible using conventional zoning standards." In this case, the applicant has not shown the modification shall result in a higher quality of development than would be possible using conventional R1 ROS zoning standards. The applicant wants to build homes with front-load garages without further stipulation on lots of 100 feet width. These proposed homes have not been shown by the applicant of high-quality architecture and site design that are harmonious with adjacent uses, such as the completed sections of the Deer Run subdivision, and that have residential facades not dominated by garages as required by 3.1.20.f. Roman numeral 8 of the ordinances. Thus, these proposed homes have not been shown by the applicant to be a higher standard than those to be constructed under conventional zoning requirements, and the applicant does not reserve to be rewarded with the density bonus. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you for showing up, and clarifying your position. Anyone else in the back row on the left who would like to speak? Let's kind of move forward then. Is anyone else on the left here that would like to speak? Before we go to you, is there anyone else? No? Yes, sir. Let's get your name.
Good evening. My name is Chris Scott. I live at 7223 Andrea Court in Grand Blanc. That's in Deer Run Farms. I've been there 14 years. I've been the president of the association for approximately 10 years. I oppose this modification as well. And one of the main reasons is this is part of the master deed. There's a Fourth Amendment to the Deer Run Farms Condominium Association master deed that was recorded on August 21, 2006. I can give you the instrument number if you want, but that it is a need not be built parcel, but it is still subject to the master deed for Deer Run Farms Association. So the only way to separate that out of the association bylaws would be to have a partition action or to change the bylaws. He's not proposing either one of those things. The bylaws require, for this specific issue, under Article 8C, they require side entry garage that accommodate 2 to 4 cars. The bylaws specifically state front entry garages shall not be permitted. That's a quote. So the bylaws apply, and they are totally against exactly what he wants to do here. So if he were to proceed with this, it would be in contravention of the bylaws, and the association would be forced to seek legal action, and an injunction or fines or all of the above. So that's important. The other thing is I don't think this panel or the township has the authority to override the bylaws. That would have to be done, again, through amendment to the bylaws and their specific rules and regulations in that regard under the Condominium Act. That would be required. And moreover, as Mr. Dowd said, there's ordinance issues. I concur with what he said. In the sections of the ROS district, there's specific provisions in there that you have to follow. And I think you've talked before that there isn't a specific criteria like changing for a variance, but there is a specific criteria under section 3120E of the ROS that requires a deviation shall result in a higher quality of development than would be possible using conventional zoning standards. Regulatory modifications are not subject to a variance approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's what's required to make this change. He has a standard. He didn't speak anything about during his presentation about what he's going to do to make a higher quality development than what's already there. Again, this property is between Deer Run Farms and Pine Hollow. And if you go through those neighborhoods, there are no front-loading garages in either one of those neighborhoods. The ROS has, I think, 3 or 4 different provisions in it, and I can quote them if you'd like. They talk about how these neighborhoods have to be consistent with one another to show flow and high-quality development that is consistent with the surrounding areas. I think that's actually part of the ordinance for Grand Blanc Township. So this would be a difference, and people would be looking out their window at houses that are directly different than them, that is in violation of bylaws. It would cause litigation, turmoil, et cetera. So I think all that should be avoided by denying this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the left that would like to address the planning commission? Not? We'll go to the right, start in the back. Anyone back? Back row? Coming forward? Anyone else? Just so we can get your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Wendy Berkland, and I live at 7218 Stevani Drive. I've lived at Deer Run Farms for about 3 years, and I'm not against development, and only living in the community for 3 years, I really like how everything is growing around us. One thing that concerns me is that in looking at the master plan for Grand Blanc Township, which is really great and well done on the website, and seeing our area right there between Pine Hollow and Deer Run Farms is a very, very nice area, and the homes have a certain look and feel to them. And I think, for Grand Blanc Township, it's important in that section to keep it looking that way. So no matter what we do in that area, and I know we need to have development and growth, it's good for our tax base, but also our home values are important for our tax base. So I would like to see if something does go in there, like let's talk about what that looks like and make sure there's enough buffer zone. If the houses look a lot different, what's the buffer between our neighborhood? Is there a screening? We don't allow fences in our community, so if the houses look a lot different, what can we do to make this a more, seamless or collaborative look to the area so that for our master plan for Grand Blanc as a whole, we have that area looking really nice. And that's a very big attractor for people buying homes there. That's why we bought our home there 3 years ago when we first moved here. We didn't know much about the area, and we thought, wow, this is beautiful. So I would like to see us keep it that way and really talk about this before just making a decision that might just be because we want to make a sale on this land and we want to make it as flexible as possible without considering a lot of the folks that have lived here for many years and really enjoy the look and feel of this area. So those are my thoughts tonight after hearing the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else on the right that would like to speak, address the planning commission before we close the public comment portion? Sure. You are on the right, aren't you?
I'm not quite sure about some of this, but under what I understood from my attorney when I originally bought this property 3 or 4 years ago, it is a need not be built. It's a development that's been sitting for so long that statute of limitations have run out. That's what I've been told. So that's why I bought this 74 acres. In regards to density, I'm giving you less lots. I'm not asking for more homes on smaller lots. Only thing I'm asking for, I'm not asking for anything out of an ordinance like somebody might think that I'm asking for you guys to change your ordinance or your zoning requirements. I'm asking for you to not require the ROS agreement that was signed that states the house garages at our front load have to be 5 feet beyond the front of the house. I might want them 5 feet in the front. There's nothing that says you can't have a front load garage. It just stipulates where the location of the garage front load's going to be. So I'm giving you open space. I'm giving you exactly everything I think you guys intended for this ROS to be. And the bylaws are not part of this planning commission consideration. I'm only here to ask for this ROS open space agreement to be opened up and just take out the, I guess, definition of front load garages that they have to be 5 feet beyond. And just let us put them, 5 feet in the front. As for the house sizes, everything's going to be under what your rules are. I'm not asking for anything different. And I do recall my attorney saying that a stalled development that's been sitting for this so long has stipulations for the master deed that timeline's on my side. So we'll go from there.
If you can be quick, we're supposed to limit to 3 minutes, but.
I'm sorry, it was something Mr. Socrani said, which is, he did buy this property, but I don't know if he fully understood the legal problems that pertain to the property and were outlined by the homeowner association president, that, this property is still part of the Deer Run Farms site condo subdivision. And it appears to me, looking at, and I've only seen part of the records because so much of the records of the planning department are off for scanning. But it seems to me from the deeds and the amendments to the deeds that the property still is part of the overall Deer Run subdivision. And the plan was to develop it consistently throughout all of the parcels. The one that's owned by Mr. Hoffman, the completed sections 1 and 2, and now this section 4, which Mr. Socrani's family company, S7 Holdings, owns. I also want to say, I said in my letter, I oppose the modification currently, but he's provided us a site plan today. This is the first time we've seen it. If we had more information, perhaps people who live in the homeowners association would feel more comfortable, and that perhaps right now it's premature for you to make a decision one way or the other without additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Since I allowed him, I'll give
On the master deed issue, I'm a licensed attorney in Michigan, as is my wife, who is a real estate attorney at Dykema for 20 years, and she's consulted with her colleagues at Dykema, and I had an opinion from another attorney on this issue that's practiced nothing but real estate law for 40 years. And it absolutely is in the master deed. That master deed has been researched, it hasn't been amended, it hasn't been revoked. The only way to do so would be to change the bylaws or file a petition action. Neither one of those things has happened, so it absolutely is controlled by the bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we bring this back up to the planning commission? Not. We're going to close the public comment portion, bring it back up to the planning commission. Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start off, and I kept taking notes to the people in the audience, so I apologize I didn't get your name. Chris made a comment, we don't have authority to do this. Can Mr. Smith or Jill, could one of you speak to that comment, please?
Yes, so any deed restrictions that are imposed on the property are not to be overridden by the township, but also not enforced by the township. So those are civilly enforced bylaws and deed restrictions that you might have. This is an interesting project because it's so old. It was originally approved in 1999, the whole project together. Just digging through our records, we've been working with the township since 2004, had some records scanned, as we know that can be a challenge. And I was only able to find in 2005 when phases 3 and 4 came through site plan review. And on that plan, there's Phase 5 is shown, but I don't see that Phase 5 was ever approved individually. And if you look in the requirements for this section, you'll see the section at the end on phasing. And it says that each phase shall function on its own, and that if there is, there's a certain time frame that's associated with that, and if there's no site plan approved, then they would have to go through the whole site plan process again, which seems the direction that I think is most likely the way to go. And what I think I may not be clear about, and maybe Mr. Sokranis, if you could explain, are you seeking to use the ROS again to develop this property by saying we'd like some flexibility with some of the standards, but we're not asking for the density bonus, and so therefore we're not going to abide by the design standards that are included for that? Or are you suggesting that you don't want to use the ROS and you just want to come through as like a site condo under the R1 zoning standards?
I was just following, because all that 148 acres and all of the whole section through there is set up for ROS.
Right.
I was just following everything under the ROS. I was cutting back on the density. I was sticking with the lot sizes. I was just asking for the front of the garage, not to say 5 feet beyond the front. And allow me to put it in the front. All this property, 148 acres, was foreclosed on a long time ago. And I believe when you foreclose on a property and all that, it goes back to nothing. I'm not totally 100% sure, but I'm almost positive. I wouldn't have been led by my attorney to say, yes, you can go buy it. Yours is a need not be built. I looked at buying the other 74 acres, and I did not buy it because I had to stick to those, or I'd have to go through, get all those lots taken away and put back to one lot. And I would have had to have 97 votes to do that. That's the reason why I bought this 74, was to put my house in the middle of it. Now I have other family ideas that we're going and moving somewhere else. So I have an opportunity to go back to what I did when I started in 1988, was developing a subdivision and putting another one in the township. Not asking for anything different, sticking with the ordinance. Mine's a need not be built. I believe 100%, I do not have to follow the rules of the run. It was a foreclosed piece, I bought it, need not be built. It's one single project. But I'm sticking with the whole zoning ordinance and the overlay. Other than that one thing I'm asking, I'd love to show you houses and plans. This is a conceptual. I might end up with 76 lots. I'm not asking to go over 80. I can do 117.
So it sounds as though, if I can, that you are interested in still utilizing the ROS section of the ordinance, but not asking for the density bonus portion, which would relieve you of those other design standards. So you're able to do that. And I don't know that the planning commission would necessarily need to take any action this evening. I know that it's hard because you would like to have some assurance before you invest in developing all of that. But the planning commission then is also kind of stuck with what are we approving? And I think the neighbors would relate to that too. We're not really sure what it is. So it's a little chicken and egg, I think, but.
Put that one-page agreement back up that says front-load garages.
But we can't do that. I mean, we can, Township Planning Commission can do that if you're not utilizing the density option, which is, it kind of sounds like that's what you're proposing, is to not use the density option, the bonus, in exchange for relief from those design standards, in which case I think you're just submitting a new site plan for the Planning Commission's consideration, going through this process.
Sorry, we've closed the public comment portion.
No, sorry, sir. Public comment is closed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
You had others?
No, it's at the board level.
Not technically, no. But anyway, I would like to get Mr. Landy's opinion on this. If you had any discussions with him.
I have had discussions with Mr. Laddie. He said that the site plan wasn't required, and Mr. Sakrenis brought one before you today.
Mr. Bush, go ahead.
I want to ask one additional question then. If this is a site plan issue, and he's not deviating from residential open space, isn't this something handled at site plan review and not here? At this level?
Sounds kind of like what our consultant has brought up.
Right, I think if you, since we all just got the site plan this evening at the meeting, we wouldn't have known that that was the case. So if this is going through the ROS process, I think that's how it would go through. But if he's still utilizing the flexibility of the ROS, where we're clustering the land, we're leaving some open space, then that is part of this overall process. It would go through the procedures that are outlined in that section of the code.
Ms. Golder, did you?
Yeah, I just have a question. I want to clarify this whole issue about the residential open space agreement. I take it there was an agreement under the residential open space agreement that required side entry garages or rear entry garages.
Yes.
Now, the proposal is that you want to modify that and allow front-facing garages, but what's the authority in the, to supersede the, or waive, or modify basically the zoning ordinance that says that residential open space shall have side entry garages or recessed garages and no front-facing garages?
In the ordinance under section 3.1.20, oops, I went too far. F, I think it is. Going back up. Yes, F, the density bonus. It says, "The Planning Commission may allow an exemplary residential open space development to include an optional density bonus. In order to qualify for the optional density bonus, the applicant must demonstrate to the satisfaction of the Planning Commission that the proposed project exceeds the minimum standards for residential open space development under this section." In there, it allows up to 20% more units. And then there's a whole list of things that are required, including a minimum of 50% of the lots abut the open space preservation area, preservation of unique recreational features. But the item 8 there is high-quality architecture and site design. Buildings shall provide harmony with adjacent uses in terms of texture, materials, peaked roof lines, and massing. Residential facades shall not be dominated by garages. All residential units shall have a side entry garage or recessed garages where the front of the garage is at least 5 feet behind the front line of the living portion of the principal dwelling. So that's in exchange for the additional density that's permitted in the ordinance, but it's not required unless you're going over that.
You're saying if you're not asking for the density bonus, then
Yeah.
Correct.
I guess,
There are other standards for that, the open space, and there are some of that regulatory flexibility that we talked about that's in the previous section, Section E, which talks about regulatory flexibility that allows for a reduction in minimum yard setbacks, lot size, and bulk standards. So one might use the ROS option if we want to be clustering lots together like we are here, preserving some of the green space around those. Something that may be in a traditional, and I believe, Mr. Chair, you mentioned the parallel plan idea, where we would show what you could build if you just went in under the R1 zoning, which would have been there prior to the ROS classification, which is 12,000 square foot lots.
No,
I'll go back to
was
it, but 21,000.
Half acre
half acre lot.
is what R1,
Is it?
yep.
Okay.
R1 is half acre lots, but the ROS drops it down to 17,425 square feet per lot minimum.
Mr. Hoffman, I saw you were interested in making a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when this was all done at one time, was there a bonus of number of lots given at that time?
Not that I'm aware of. In the ROS agreement, the only two items that were deviated from the book requirements were to reduce the front footage and reduce the minimum lot square footage. In the records that I have, that's the only thing that was deviated from the book requirements.
So, I mean, typically, over the decades that I've been on here, people try to come in and say, we want to build more lots than what we're allowed to, therefore we'll put some open space here to do that. This seems to be exactly the opposite of, we would like to give you more open space with fewer lots. He's not asking for the bonus.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Bush?
I'm going to
Oh,
jump on.
can I do one thing, Marty?
Oh, sure.
As far as the quality of materials and things of that nature, that's all, it has to be approved at site plan. So it's not like if this is approved, they don't get to come in and say, oh, well, we're gonna put cardboard boxes up. I mean, all those materials have to be approved at site plan,
Yes.
or it doesn't move forward.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was known.
Mr. Bush?
I'm just going to piggyback on what Mr. Hoffman just said, and looking at the zoning ordinance under residential open space, Section E, regulatory flexibility, and it states, the planning commission can deviate departures from the requirements of the zoning ordinance for setbacks and lot sizes and such. And it says, if we deem it, if it results in enhanced buffering from adjacent uses. So less lots, more open space is exactly what Section E says. Just my opinion, I just wanted to,
And if I could just note, Section E doesn't apply, the requirement for the garages doesn't apply if they're not asking for the density bonus. So E wouldn't override that
So it doesn't
anyway.
matter.
But I don't think E would override it anyway, because E is talking about the rest of the ordinance, not the quality standards that you would want to offer for the density bonus, if that makes sense.
we just have to look at what he's done in the township for 30 years to see quality.
Assuming that that continues to be the case and the property
Correct.
isn't transferred. So
Correct.
just to be fair.
Correct.
Mr. Hoffman?
Especially the transfer part. I appreciate that. The next question I have is, we have rules and regulations and ordinances. Homeowners Association have rules and regulations and ordinances. We have no control over what a homeowners association or group does.
typically their rules are more strict than our rules. Not requiring fences, not allowing sheds, not allowing pools.
What I'm saying is, we can't consider what their rules are to what we can enforce or what we have, correct? Okay.
I guess I'm a little uncomfortable making any kind of decision this evening without getting more input from Mr. Laddie and having an opportunity to review that just personally.
He has, once you were all given your packet, Mr. Laddie gets one as well for every meeting. So he has reviewed this and he's looked at this and he has not provided any comments for the negative.
Yeah, I'd like to request that he does provide written
Well-
opinion.
Okay. It may not be Attorney Laddie.
Okay,
Mr. Laddie will be done the end of the year.
okay.
The township is currently shopping, just an FYI. But I can try and get something from him if you'd like. Or, I don't know if this,
And I'd also like a little more time to review this section of the ordinance myself, and I didn't realize that.
another option to consider, making this tonight contingent upon site plan approval.
Well, I understand that.
So you could make a decision tonight to say yes and move it forward that next step. And if it dies at the next step, then this all goes away.
It almost seems like this.
I support your position. I really would like to see Mr. Laddie's opinion on this issue, of whether we can override the provision in the
I don't
zoning
know that-
ordinance that says that you, for residential open space properties, you can't have front-facing garages, you can have recess or side entry. I just,
Mr. Johnson.
Just a quick question. You guys will have to excuse. I've got everything I've got what everybody else is getting, so excuse my voice. We saw this case at the zoning board, maybe about a year ago, I want to say. I guess my question is when we made those changes at the zoning board, how would that have affected what we're doing, what he's talking about doing today? I mean, none of this came into play when he wanted to separate those lots, break those lots off. How does that fall into play with the way the current condominium layout is set up?
So that was something that was a prior iteration of this. All of that is now, if this gets approved, that all goes away.
Because I'm not part of their association. I'm a need not be built on a separate parcel. I do not fall under the rules of their master deed.
Which was going to be my next question, is if he is part of that, if the property is part of that association, does that, I mean, my question was, have you ever paid dues? Have you ever done anything to?
Nobody has.
Okay,
Not even the 92 lots you guys have tax IDs for.
okay.
He's required to pay dues on those 92 lots. He owes us about $300,000.
That's not me, by the way.
But I have a legal opinion on it, the same one that says this is part of it. Right in the recorded document, it says subject to restrictions, reservations, and easements.
You've had your opportunity, we appreciate it, we understand where you're at, but it feels a little bit early to me until we look at some things a little more. I feel a little bit surprised that maybe I didn't read it closely enough, the proposal. Some things seem like they've popped up here today that, less density that affects, how we look at things as well.
So you want it, so just to be clear, what do you specifically want clarification on? You want on section E? You want section F? What do you want clarification on from Mr. Attorney Laddie?
Both. I mean, how do we move forward on this? Is from him, is this a completely separate parcel and so none of this applies, or,
Okay.
just, I don't know enough legally as to what's going on, and
I mean, this is not something that, I guarantee you in the state of Michigan, this has happened before, right? Where you have a development that doesn't, a third or fourth stage that doesn't proceed to development. What's happened in the past with cases like that across the state that are similar to what we're doing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's why I brought up the idea, did the whole property actually get a benefit from going open space? And apparently the answer is no. Is that what you're? I disagree with that. Well, I mean, that's what I asked earlier.
He's not looking for that density bonus, though. That's the difference.
Well, what I'm asking is, did the density, was there a density bonus given to all, saying, okay, we could do only 400 in this area, but we want to do 600, and those first phases are actually higher density than what they should have been.
I see what you're saying. I'll peruse my records again.
Sorry,
No, that's fine. I didn't see anything in there of that sort because we were looking for those things in our records, but that did not come up.
right. So because at that same token, if they were given the density bonus, and still coming back to the area that this is the final one, and they're even giving up more open space. They're still even giving up, giving back and saying, okay, well, we were able to build more. So I think that's
Well, if-
in there.
But he's an independent.
Well,
Even if
but
he
it
was
would-
phase 5, he's independent. Each phase is treated independent.
Then I'm
He has
o-
to provide his own master deed.
Then I'm okay with that then.
Right,
Immediately.
in which case, going through the process, just like a fresh process
Right.
would probably be the right direction. They did, I mean, if the lot sizes were reduced, then they may have gotten more units, just because you could fit more if you have a smaller lot requirement.
The other fear that I have here also is if it starts over fresh, what's stopping him from putting in 94 or 115 instead of the 80? And he won't be required to do site entry at that time, correct?
Correct?
And there will be no open space.
Right, none.
There's some required in
Well, setbacks.
yeah, but there's,
Well, less than what is being
Correct.
requested.
yes.
Correct.
Because there's a cost to coming back and redeveloping and redoing and replanning along those lines. So if those costs are going to be there, you could come back and say, fine, now I gotta do those costs, so I'm gonna build more houses, not be required to do side lots.
It
little bit
seems
of a
as though
gamble.
there needs to be new plans done anyway, though. Because this wouldn't, what was presented is not consistent with what was approved in 1999. So either way, there needs to be a fresh site plan.
Okay, so we'll table this to
Guess would someone like to make a motion to table this to the next meeting?
a future date. I don't know if the next meeting would be the 9th. I don't know if you can turn that around. No? Okay, so we'll future date. And then we'll go from there. Unfortunately, everybody here tonight will not be re-noticed in the tabling. So please check the website or call me. My information, if you need a card, I'll get you cards after the meeting. We can take a pause and I can.
Agendas can be checked, right? 'Cause it-
Agendas can be checked. It's all on our website to see when this would come back. We will not be, with the tabling, we will not be re-noticing 300-foot notices or in the paper.
Sound-
Or the ROS.
Sounds like it likely will.
Unless he starts fresh with a
Unless he
new
starts fresh and.
application, Then they will get,
Well, and not if he's,
it'll be a public hearing.
if the ROS is removed. It's,
If he goes through straight rezone, or straight plan approval under the R1, no.
no. So if Attorney Laddie deems this, nothing needs to be put on this, he starts fresh, he's R1 zoning, there's no ROS, there's no public hearing, it'll still be on an agenda.
Yeah.
It'll still have to be approved for site plans, but there won't be another public hearing or a re-noticing in that instance.
Unless it goes through.
Unless it goes through the ROS again, and maybe a fresh ROS will be.
Is there a difference in the timeframe, the process, if you just go straight R1 versus ROS?
The ROS is treated kind of like a special land use. It's the first item on the agenda, or before you go to site plans, if it dies at the special land use or at the ROS, if that doesn't get approved, then those site plans probably reflect those density bonuses and things of that sort. So those site plans would be essentially null and void. You would have to start over to whatever the zoning was. So I will get clarification from Attorney Laddie to see which way this needs to be handled. I'll get that in writing. Hopefully I can get that to you before his services are done at the end of the year. I should have enough time. Get it to you in an email as soon as possible, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so we need a motion from.
Motion to
someone.
table to a future date.
Ms. Coulter?
I'll make the motion. So moved.
Motion by Ms. Coulter to table taking any action this evening until we get some input from Mr. Laddie and the applicant has an opportunity to provide a little more clarification as to what direction he'll be going. Is there support for that motion? No? Okay.
I believe Laddie got the information. I do believe that he has it within the rights or obligations to move forward with this. As the Planning Commission Department has said that you agreed with this, correct? Yes. Your findings. I also agree that there's some things that have come up tonight. I do believe we can handle those things at site plan, and it could die there if our fears that we have tonight that we need to be clarified do materialize, then at site plan, they could be stopped.
Okay.
That's kind of the path I'm leading to, is that it doesn't keep everything in limbo. And then we have a job, the opportunity to do our due diligence. And then obviously when it comes to site plan, whatever restrictions or non-restrictions we run into, we can handle.
Mr. Bush?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'll give my opinion. And I'm looking at the proposed site plan, which obviously is just proposed and proposed only, and it could change from that. Applicant already said he's got 80 lots. It could go down to 76, 74. We just don't know right now. But looking at this site and envisioning open space, and I was on this planning commission for decades along with Mr. Hoffman when we originally started residential open space in our community. And we found it as a benefit to all the residents, future residents, current residents, that we thought the open space, we hear trails, we hear sidewalks, we hear all this stuff from our community. Residential open space is one way to provide that for our citizens. And when I look at what's currently in front of me and think that I could lose 20% of the open space shown and add an additional 40 lots, I am taking away from the quality of my residents, not adding to it. I'm taking it away, which is what we've envisioned as a planning commission for 30 years. And just wanted to lay that out there as my opinion and why I didn't support the motion. I think that if we deviate from what I see right now, we're going to get a less quality product, and you're going to get less than what you think you're going to get. You're going to get a better plan. If this goes away tonight, you could see R1 come in and no open space. I don't think that's what you want. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, since there was wasn't sufficient support for the previous motion, is there another motion that someone would like to make?
Do you have it? I don't have the number.
Oh,
Can I make a motion to table?
Table motion.
That's what we-
Ordered.
You made a motion to table, but it didn't get sufficient support.
Oh, you're right. Never mind.
It's not on here. Do you have the agenda? I'd like to make a motion to approve the applicant requesting modifying the ROS development overlay of ROS 99-001.
I'll support.
Motion by Mr. Hoffman as stated, supported by Mr. Johnson. All right, we'll go through, do a individual vote here, record. We'll start on my left.
Can I, what are we specifically voting for? Can you repeat, I'm sorry, can you repeat the motion?
The applicant is requesting to not be withheld, to hold to the front, because front entry garages are accessible in this, but where they can be, basically is what it is. And for that, he's going to reduce the number of lots that are there.
And provide more open space.
Well, in providing more open space.
And-
It's just the opposite of most of these that we have. It's usually, hey, I want to build more things.
But what is the authority for allowing us to, modify that provision of the zoning ordinance regarding recessed garages, in exchange for some other positive,
You do have the authority to do that. I would recommend that you do it contingent upon review and approval of a site plan, because right now you don't have one other than one was given to you tonight that no one
Sorry,
looked
when
at.
I said that earlier, I thought that was, I mentioned that we will, if anything that comes up materialize of our concerns, or whether we have a right to do this or not, it'll come up through the site plan. So I will add to my.
I think it's good.
I will add to my motion that, yes, we need to, to continue the investigation, or thought process at site plan. I mean, there's a question here whether we have the authority or not. I kind of see as Laddie reviewing it and saying nothing means we do, but I have no problem asking him again. I think that's great. But that could all be stopped at site plan, if by chance we find out that we can't do this.
okay, I appreciate that clarification. But I definitely would want an opinion in writing from Mr. Laddie on this issue, because it does concern me that we are, overriding basically a provision in the residential open space ordinance that does not allow, front-facing garages. And
Does allow.
if there's something there that says we can do what,
Sorry, just as a point of
do, then
clarification,
fine.
front-facing is allowed, it's just where
Right,
it is. Okay, very
right,
good, yes. And I agree,
So there was a motion by Mr. Hoffman.
yes,
Support with the site plan stipulation.
with a stipulation of,
Yes.
We're in the process of voting.
okay. Okay, I'll vote yes then.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
yes,
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Gellings votes no, just a few things I'm still fuzzy about, so. So motion passes 4-1. Allow you a couple of minutes for anyone who would like to leave, and then we'll move on to the next item on our agenda.
oh, yeah.
All right, next item on our agenda, which was item 7C before we insert an item 7A above. Zoning case 678, reclassify property from professional office / medium density
Yeah, that needs to stay open. Open meeting? Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
to neighborhood commercial / medium density multiple. So you want to kind of,
Yeah, Mr. George is here to present his case, and then I can give my review.
give us a short overview. I think most of us know, but there may be.
After today, this is good. Good evening. Nick George, office at 8313 Holly Road, Grand Blanc 48439. I'm here asking for a rezoning on the last parcel in the township adjoining Grand Blanc City. The parcel has two zonings. The front was a professional office PO, back medium-density housing. I'm asking the front 6 acres be rezoned to neighborhood commercial. There is, and for 20 years, trying to sell the property, there's no demand or need for office. And I would like to create a retail spot there. I'm surrounded by retail. Ace Hardware's across the street from me, Grand Mall adjoining me on the south side, all the way up to inner city Grand Blanc. It's all retail.
Mr. Smith?
Oh, sorry. Yes, so this is zoning case number 678, vacant land on Saginaw Street. Mr. George said it is the first parcel in the township on the west-hand side of Saginaw Street, just south of the city limits. The intent is to rezone the front portion of the property. In the maps that you have, it's a upside-down J, if you will, about 530 feet from the front edge to the dog leg, is being requested to be rezoned to neighborhood commercial from professional office. The remaining acreage in the back will stay MDM as it is currently zoned today. The criteria for rezoning, consistency with the goals and policies and future land use map of Grand Blanc Township Master Plan. This request is consistent with the newly adopted master plan, but is not stated on the future land use map as NC. The map notes that this will be professional office zoning in this area. This is, the future land use map is a roadmap, if you will. It is not the Bible, it's not the end-all be-all, but we have to have a very good reason in order to deviate from the future land use map. I think Mr. George has stated in his application that this has been on the market for
20 years.
20 years and has had no bites, if you will, on this property in those years. He has one on the books today, and that would require this minimum zoning. Item B, compatibly with the site physical and geological, hydrological, and other environmental features and the host of use permitted in the proposed district. There's no conflict between any of the proposed development and physical condition of the site. Item C, evidence the applicant cannot receive a reasonable return on investment. It's incumbent on the applicant to be burdened with the return on the investment. Item D, compatibility of all potential uses allowed in the proposed zoning district with surrounding uses and zoning in terms of land suitability. Please refer to the list of permitted uses in the NC district that you were provided or that you have in your book. Item E, the capacity of township utilities and services sufficient to accommodate the uses. There appear to be adequate services for water and sewer for the proposed use. The capability of the street system to safely and efficiently accommodate the expected traffic. The property fronts Saginaw Street, which is a major thoroughfare through town and has it's 4 lanes with a center turn lane. Item G, the apparent demand for the type of uses permitted within the requested zoning district. The applicant intends to develop the site to the parameters of the NC district if approved. Item H, boundaries of the requested rezoning district are reasonable in relationship to surroundings and construction on the site will be able to meet the dimensional regulations. The parcel is large enough to meet the dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance for NC. Item I, if rezoning is appropriate, the requested zoning district is considered to be more appropriate from the township perspective. The newly adopted future land use map indicates professional office is an appropriate zoning for the area. However, the site has sat vacant for over a decade, 2 decades. Thank you for clarification, with no potential applicants. Planning and zoning department would strongly suggest that this parcel is zoned improperly. If the request for a specific use is rezoning and the land more appropriate than the amending the list of the permitted or special uses in the current zoning district to allow the use. The rezoning is not for a specific use. The parcel will allow permitted and special land uses of any uses in the NC zoning district. Item K, the requested rezoning will not create an isolated and unplanned spot zone. This rezoning does not create a spot zoning due to the surrounding uses in the Grand Blanc, city of Grand Blanc, and the uses along Saginaw Street. Item L, the request has not been previously submitted in the past year. It has not. M, an offer of conditions submitted. There's no conditions. Item N, other factors deemed appropriate. There are no other conditions. Planning and Zoning Department would support a recommendation for approval based on the following reasons. Item 1, the requested zoning is compatible with the surrounding land uses. And Item 2, the requested zoning meets the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Also, in your packet, you do have a chart. I guess we decided that's not appropriate.
It just shows a description of the. The chart was included as part of the zoning plan from the township's master plan, future land use map, and then the land use descriptions, and then the zoning plan just shows the alignment between the land use description and the zoning districts.
Any, Mr. Andre?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this currently one parcel, Mr. George?
It's one parcel,
Okay.
approximately 14 acres. The back area is MDF, which is about 8 acres, and the front is about 6 acres.
Right. So I question to staff, this would require a lot split, or would it be still conditioned under one parcel? Okay,
No, we wouldn't, at this time, we wouldn't require a lot split.
okay.
We have multiple parcels within the township boundaries that have multiple zoning. We don't typically like to have multi-zoning because it can cause issues, but in this instance, I believe this is one that actually makes sense.
Okay. And then from what you gathered about, question, or thinking you brought up the future land use map kind of being a roadmap, I think I would agree probably with the applicant that the highest and best use would be something other than what is currently within the ordinance and the future land use map because of it's been there. It's not doing anything. And we know the future of what that zoning looks like, and it probably will be vacant for some years to come. So I think it's an appropriate request. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Has there been any thought of selling off the back or working with the neighborhoods around centering that to making that residential or?
Mr. Hoffman, in over 20 years, I've tried multiple ways to market that, split, back, front. It's literally one piece.
Well, yeah, no. When that's built, what I don't want to have happen here is then, whether, I don't think it would be you, but somebody else, this is built up here, and now this is back here, and somebody says, well, now we can't sell this up here because now we have this NC or office up here, so now you gotta make this back here NC also.
At site plan review, that can be accomplished with a shared use or shared driveway agreement with the back parcel, so that, or you could put it in an easement, so that way that never happens, and it's not I believe you're referring to a landlocked parcel that
Right.
can never be developed.
Right.
And there is some other options that Mr. George and I have discussed too. There's some empty land that could potentially be used to access this back portion too, through Pepperwood potentially. I'm not saying that's something that's going to happen, but that's something that we've looked at. I'm not saying it's a for sure thing, but there's options.
We're not backing ourselves into a corner, forcing this to expand off after this.
Mr. Hoffman, that wouldn't be very prudent on my part.
Well,
Blocks off the back area at no end.
well, here's the thing.
We would have a common drive at that point.
I don't necessarily have to worry about what you want to do. I have to worry about 50 years from now that I'm not even on this board and things of that nature. So I appreciate that, but I gotta look for decades down the road, Milanos.
Mr. Hoffman, I will guarantee that won't happen as long as that's on my watch, because I've dealt with that in the past, and I never want to deal with that again. Not that I,
like you said-
something in the past, but I've dealt with this similar situation at my previous place of employment, and
But site plan.
Site plan will take
We'll
care of all of that.
need
We
to
will
make
make
sure
sure that that does not happen, I guarantee it.
Perfect.
If I can, just to say, it's already split zoning, so it's really that part doesn't change, right? The front part's already office, the back part's already multiple family. So changing that line doesn't make that situation any different.
You're worried about accessibility.
Well, yeah.
The
I mean,
connectivity,
because all of a
certainly.
sudden, because one of the requirements of changing this is, hey, I can't sell this the way it is now. So you put NC up there, that's gonna make the case for the backside even more. Now we really can't sell it. You gotta give me NC on the whole thing now. I just wanna make sure that we're not causing that issue.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Planning Commission?
If I could too, just when you're ready to make your motion, if you are, to just make sure you're clear on how far the zoning change would go. So it looks like the applicant says 530 feet. So you may wish to include that in your motion, the first 530 feet from Saginaw, just so we know where that line is, because that is a legal framework.
If I
Without a
may-
survey.
If I may, we measured that wrong. It was cold up the hill. If you look at the map where it starts at point, that's 600 feet. And I got that from the map at the township.
It's
So
probably this line here.
it goes right to the point of 600, cuts straight across if I follow the lines of the township.
The depth would be different depending on which side of the property you're looking.
Right, so are you talking 600 on the south line or 600 on the south?
On the south line.
Okay.
And it angles down, and it cuts that in half per the drawing from the township.
600 feet. Well, I think a survey will be needed for this, just to make sure that we don't, at least one line, or there needs to be some sort of documentation delineating where this exactly is. I'm sure you're okay with that, Mr. George? I
Yes,
don't want
sir.
to put words in your mouth.
And I'll make
but-
sure that happens.
Okay, perfect. So so there was no conditions, but I think now we have a condition that says that we're going to get this surveyed, that says that we are going to make sure that we know going into the future how big that actual portion will be for NC.
The intent is to go from corner to corner.
Starts like this, yeah.
Okay, we need to have a public hearing, so you can have a seat. And we will open up to anyone that would like to speak and address the planning commission.
Khan. I live in Pepperwood. I'm in favor of it. I don't see anything that would harm the neighborhood on it. There is no accessibility from Pepperwood into this property. The back half of Mr. George's property that would abut the Pepperwood is really abutting a wetlands area. In the back half of his property, I don't remember what the acre, 2 acres of it, or something in the rear is wetlands. So there is really no interference with the Pepperwood neighborhood. And I've been a real estate broker in the area for years and dealt with all those properties surrounding there. So pretty familiar with it. And I'm in favor of it. I mean, the property needs to get developed. It's been sitting there for years. And the adjoining properties are already the same type of zoning, so going into the city. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
I'm Colleen Trank. I live at 8052 Pepperwood Drive. I have one of the first buildings as you come in off Saginaw Street. It is extremely lovely in my backyard. All I see is wetlands, whatever. I have a screen porch that I live on in the summer. I have a new next door neighbor with a screen porch. It's his favorite room of the whole condo. I don't want noise, confusion, whatever. It says commercial. I don't know, does that include restaurants or anything like that? Where I would smell that when I was out on my screen porch? How far back would it come? Would it abut to my property, or to my line where I am? Pepperwood is a very lovely, quiet neighborhood. He said something about putting a street in, or for the back part of it could come through Pepperwood, give us more traffic.
That was just an idea, that's not.
All right,
that's not
but it's an idea.
That's-
It's out
That's just an
there.
idea, that, please omit that if you need to.
Well, I want to know, is there a chance that would happen?
We'd have to look at it, it was just something that we had discussed, it's not even on the books at this time. so
I don't know.
apologize,
But I have a very lovely, very quiet neighborhood. I have company who come and they say, I just love it back here. It's so quiet and peaceful. I don't want to ruin that. So I am definitely opposed to it.
Could I answer this lady?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think maybe a map may help her questions, if I could show her.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the first of Pepperwood. Here's the line here. Everything else will still say. So this is the first, that's the first one.
doesn't make sense. Where's Pepperwood
Right
Drive?
here.
All right, that's where I live.
The corners don't start till here.
All right,
You live right here.
no,
This
I'm up
piece-
here by,
This, you're here. This piece is up here, and you're.
Still got the.
How do we end up in a sidebar?
We still got the public hearing going on.
that
three-
part.
I allowed it.
Sidebar going.
Yeah.
It'll never be built on. So that's what you're.
All right.
looking at. So
We got to move on.
all raises the birth.
Lions game's on tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
There's another business here, it looks like it was,
State Bank and then
well, that's
empty lot
the
next to it.
bank, but there's something back here too that comes up.
Somebody has apartments in there.
There's-
No, someone's have.
Apartments,
Half a dozen apartments.
yes, right, that's right there.
Yeah. You see the apartments before you even see.
Mr. Smith?
You go this way,
Yeah.
Louder, Dan.
Mr. Smith, we need
Yes.
to get moving on with.
Yes,
It's just this green.
All right. Anyone else that would like to address the planning commission that's back here? No? All right. We are going to close the public comment portion, bring it back up to the planning commission. Any other discussions here?
Mr. Chairman, you also have a correspondence from the city of Grand Blanc
Yes.
in your packet. They, you can read it at your own will.
They're not in favor.
Well, I don't know. It starts that way, but then I don't understand. I will address one thing in there. It talks about the gas station moratoriums. That language we passed and recommended to the township board at our last meeting, that will go at next Tuesday's township board meeting. So the covered decks and pergolas will go at next township board, and the gas station, text amendments will go to the township board. So that'll get taken care of then, to address the comments in the letter.
Zoning, this is something that we take action on here, or is it go?
This is a recommendation to the township board tonight for this public hearing, yes.
Not yet.
When you say for public hearing? This is a recommendation to the township board for
For-
rezoning.
Yes.
Or yes, for approval.
Or for
Denial or approval.
denial or approval for rezoning, yes.
Whatever we recommend.
Right.
Mr. Burke?
So I just want to read it on Grand Blanc City letter again, and I really, I'm very happy that they sent this. We very rarely get letters from other municipalities. I also am in agreement that they are against it. But when I read through why they're against it, our ordinance says 20,000, theirs says 15. Ours says 60, theirs says 45. Is 5,000 square feet really that much of a difference? And I think they're really relying on very little numbers, and we're not really that far
Well,
apart.
I feel confident that if this does get approved, we'll get a good site plan.
Absolutely.
And we will review everything that applies and make sure that
Finally get some.
everyone that's in the area is
Yes.
protected as well as we can do.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Clarification, is it 600 feet or 530 feet?
6.
Sounds like maximum 600, but they're going to do a site
Survey.
survey.
All right.
And they should have that before it goes to the township board, for their action. So I think your recommendation is fair unless,
Okay. Any other discussion? Anyone like to make a?
Well, is there any chance that it's bigger than 600 feet? Is there any chance that it's bigger than 600 feet? Okay. I'm just worried that we'd have to.
Dimensions?
Is it point to point?
No, because if you see the dog legs, that's my worry. If this was square, I wouldn't have any problems with this, but I'm just worried that if we put it,
Actual.
no, I don't want to postpone it. I just want to,
Actual
if we-
dimensions to be determined
By field surveying,
by.
it's approved by.
as, yes, survey approved by by myself and, and at the township board, like Ms. Boehm said, is that before we take it to the township board, they'll have that in their packet so they can make
For
a,
today's discussion, we can say it's approximately 600 feet,
that's fine, okay.
verified by survey.
All right, I was just worried that we did have to come back and renote it. I just don't want to go through all of that again if we don't have to.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have the number of it, but
Okay.
are you gonna do it? Yeah, go.
I'll make a motion for zoning case for approval of zoning case
Recommendation.
I'm sorry, zoning recommendation for 678.
Recommendation to the township board,
Recommendation to the township board
Or,
for
approval,
approval of what?
rezoning to NC for the front portion of the property, approximately 600-foot depth.
with the stipulation that a survey will be following.
Yes, yes, thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Is there support for that motion?
I'll support.
Mr. Andre supports that. Where did Mr. Bush go?
I think he's.
You only need,
Final break.
you only need.
We only need the 5, so we can, well, hang on, I think he's in the restroom. Before we make this motion, just in
Oh,
case.
I didn't even know.
Where'd he
I didn't
go?
even see him leave.
I don't know if he got a phone call or.
I don't know. I think he's just in the restroom.
I'll move farther away now that you're.
Roll the dice.
I'm not sick, I promise. It's
Roll the dice on the boat.
It's
Oh,
been.
there we go.
All right, there's been a motion by Mr. Johnson. There was support for that motion by Mr. Andre. So vote is in order. We'll do it.
To move up to the board for recommendation of approval pending the site depth survey. We're good.
All right, we'll just do a voice vote and see how that goes. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, we're set. Committee reports?
No committee reports. The only thing that I have is under
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
other business. Mr. George, get a hold of me tomorrow or early next week.
Tomorrow morning.
Perfect, thank you.
He'll be there at 8 o'clock.
Don't call me tonight. 9A, due to the holiday schedule, I'm requesting that we move the regularly scheduled January 2nd, 2025 meeting to the following week for January 9th, 2025, please.
Is there any formal action needed by the planning commission?
Yeah, I need a vote to that, please.
I'll make a motion to move the January 2nd, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to January 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting, same time and place.
Motion by Mr. Andre to move the meeting to the 9th. Support was by Mr. Bush. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, tonight.
All right, motion.
I know it was a rough one, but I
Motion
swear we'll get it handled. We'll get it figured
Motion for adjournment?
At
By Mr. Bush to adjourn at
8:44, official time, 8:44.
support by Mr. Johnson. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.